What's up, y'all? My name is JR, and for those of you who don't already know, I'm a huge movie and TV nerd. If you're new here, I appreciate you taking the time to check out my channel. I hope you'll consider sticking around and joining the film community I'm trying to build here on YouTube. So in today's video, I'm going to be giving my reaction and review of Apple TV's latest thriller film, Echo Valley. And just so you guys know, this video will contain some mild spoilers, so if you haven't gotten around to watching this movie yet and you don't want to know anything that happens in it, you might want to exit this video now. And with that being said, no more wasting time. Let's get into it. Echo Valley is an American thriller film directed by Michael Pierce, written by Brad Inglesby, and starring Julianne Moore, Sydney Sweeney, Domhnall Gleeson, Kyle MacLachlan, and Fiona Shaw. The story follows a woman who lives in a farm in Pennsylvania and discovers that her daughter has come to her in an alarming state. The film received a limited theatrical release in the United States and Canada on June 6th of this year, just ahead of being released on Apple TV on June 13th. And at the time of the making of this video, the movie has a 49% on Rotten Tomatoes based on 73 critic reviews, and its popcorn meter currently sits at 48%, with over 250 verified ratings. The film has a Metascore of 53 on Metacritic based on 21 critic reviews, and it has a user score of 3.6 based on 20 user ratings. And finally, the movie has a 6.3 out of 10 on IMDb with almost 9,000 ratings. So, while I admire Sydney Sweeney's go-getter attitude as it pertains to her willingness to roll up her sleeves and personally pitch movies for her to star in over the course of her still young career, I also think her performances in those movies has been a bit hit or miss, mostly because she hasn't really been the right fit for all of the stuff that she's put herself in. But as it pertains to this particular film, Julianne Moore's casting in the film is what ultimately piqued my interest enough to make me want to sit down and watch it and ultimately cover it here for you guys. Now, that being said, I knew this film was doomed from its opening image. Sight unseen, I really couldn't tell whether I was watching something that had happened in the past, something that was happening in the present, or something that would happen in the future for the first 10 minutes or so of the film. And Julianne Moore's character, the way that the information was presented, it was almost like she was having premonitions of some kind, but that's never really covered to a great extent in the film. So I really couldn't tell you if that's what's happening or not. It just kind of felt like the director was like, oh, this would be cool if we just cut and paste and do it like this, like for artistic sake. And I just, I wonder what the filmmakers were really trying to accomplish here outside of just trying to show us, the audience, how clever they could be. And I think that it really did the movie harm from a narrative perspective. Now, once the film does, finally settle down, some 12 minutes or so into the story, and you finally kind of understand what you're watching. And from that point, I'll admit that it's a pretty paint-by-numbers type style thriller with very few surprises where the beats are concerned. I tell you guys all the time that when you're doing movie beats or even television show beats, the beats have to lead to the next beat, right? You have to be able to draw a line from beat 1 to beat 2, from beat 2 to beat 3, 3 to 4, and so on, right? And so, once you kind of get the setup of this film, it does kind of progress the way that you would expect where the beats are concerned. Now, what was a surprise to me was how little regard Brad Inglesby, the writer, seemed to have for the intelligence of us, his audience, as we steamed past the film's midpoint into what I thought was a rather ridiculous path towards a fairly predictable conclusion. And, Julianne Moore's character, once she kind of figures out what's going on in reality, at first, she really thinks that she's trying to save her daughter from being caught up in a really bad situation. But once she figures out that her daughter is causing the bad situation, that she's purposefully putting her mother at risk in order to take advantage of her, what Julianne Moore's character decides to do in recompense, it's just, you're kind of going, it's so hard to believe that it kind of just shatters that fourth wall. As you're watching the movie, you're kind of sitting there going, nah, you need more people. right? The ability for Julianne Moore's character to do what she does and to pull it off and not wind up in jail, it just, you end up just going, nah, I just don't believe this. It's just not believable. Now, speaking of the film's conclusion, even that was a non-decision, as the film doesn't actually wrap itself up in any kind of meaningful way. The film just kind of cuts to black. It just kind of crashes to a halt. You know what I'm saying? Ending on kind of a cliffhanger. And I tend to dislike cliffhangers a great deal because it's almost like a cop-out for the writer. Like the writer didn't know how to end the movie, so they just don't. You know what I mean? Now, I thought the acting in the film was decent, right? And Julianne Moore certainly shines as the film's protagonist, right? I will never accuse Julianne Moore of not bringing her A game to the table as an actor. We all expected that Julianne Moore would be good in this movie. I did think that the directing was a bit murky in some pretty important spots, and that wound up, in my opinion, hurting the film much more than it did help it. And, what I did think helped this film, in fact, the only thing I think helped save the film was its sub 2 hour runtime. Because just when you get to the point where you kind of feel like you've seen enough and you're ready to turn it off, the movie kind of crashes to a halt quite suddenly. And you go, oh, that's it? Oh, okay, cool. You know what I mean? Now, overall, I'd give this film a 55% or 5.5 if you're thinking IMDb score. Look, this film was a bit of a narrative mess, as I think it can't really decide exactly what it wants to be, right? Or rather, it tries to be all things at once. And though the movie isn't horrible, right, it isn't exactly good either, right? I tell people anything over a 60% or a 6.0 out of 10 is a good movie. This movie is not that. What it is your typical slice of streaming service pie, right? A movie designed to simply keep the machine running so as to not allow subscribers the chance to feel like they need to look elsewhere for new content. I say all that to say that this film would have been a massive disappointment if you had to get up out of your bed and go to the movies and drop $50 in total if you take somebody with you in order to check it out, right? But as an Apple original, I'd say that it does what it was created to do, right? If only just barely. But what do you guys think? Have you had a chance to watch Echo Valley yet? If you have, what did you think about the way the story was told and, how the beats kind of progress after the midpoint? Especially after the midpoint. Let me know in the comments. And for those of you that might be new to the channel, be sure to like and share this video. If you really like the content, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. That way you'll be notified whenever I drop a new video. You can also now support the channel by leaving a super thanks. If you should be so inclined, I'd greatly appreciate it. Also, be sure to go and check out themadScreenwriter.com for more television and film reviews and info on my upcoming film projects. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I got screenplays to write, and I'll catch y'all on the next video.